We are good to start, Nelson. Over to you.
Hello everyone. Thanks for joining Suk India for this exam cloud with session. Most of you aware we have exam cloud we are using with Next.js application, right? This is something communicate with ASP.NET Core. See how easy we can able to implement this feature. Yeah. Before getting started, let me introduce about myself. I'm Nelson, Senior Solution Architect at Horizontal Digital. This is my
Nelson, can you speak a bit louder because your voice is very low?
okay. Is it clear?
Yes, it's better now. Thank you.
Okay, I need to talk a lot. Okay, okay, good. Um, so this is about my introduction. So I'm Nelson, a senior solution architect from Horizontal. This is my LinkedIn and my blog post. The agenda for today's section is we will go through what is necessary, why we are using XM Cloud with ASP.NET Core. We are already having a front-end application like Next.js and other Angular as well. But yeah, basically they're coming up with Angular. It's not ready at all. Yeah, they're gonna come up with Angular as well. Um, we're gonna look at the starter kit, which is readily available for us to get started with this, and we'll see about the renderings and model binding option, which is readily available, and how can we customize the layout service response with the content server, and we'll see the tunneling option which will help us to navigate through the pages, and we'll see the UI and we can edit the components. Okay, and yeah, this is the basic agenda for our today's session. Um, so what is ASP.NET Core for exam cloud site? Right. So I think most of them are aware of GSS application, right? So Sitecore is already providing an option for us to communicate with XP and XM environment using a .NET Core, right? So they actually upgraded the SDK, which can able to support now the XM Cloud application as well. So they actually modified the SDK. So who are actually currently using the previous SDK has slightly need to change few more changes. Like then you get package upgrade. Then they can able to use the latest SDK, which can help them to work with XM Cloud as well. Okay, so that is how the uh, I'm getting echo. Okay, let me continue. So that's how that's it. Then how the communication happening between the XM Cloud and the ASP.NET Core, right? Is basically through the GraphQL client. By default, Sitecore XM Cloud, we can communicate with the help of layout service response. So you who are worked with Next.js or ASP.NET Core, so there is a GraphQL client which is intermediate that can fire a API, REST API, which can communicate with the experience edge and grab the response, and programmatically the Next.js application, they will process the response and do the model binding accordingly, right? The similar way, out of the box, the SDK and the starter kit provided to us by Sitecore help us to do this in the easiest way. Okay. This is the basic request and response flow with the with of external code. Okay, so basically when the request comes from the user, it goes to the ASP.NET application. From the ASP.NET application, uh, when there is a controller which having a use, let me go to the code and quickly show that one, so it will be easy. So whenever any request comes, when the controller is set with this attribute like use Sitecore rendering, then this this will call this the ASP.NET GraphQL client. Okay, so that client will format the request into the REST API format that will call the edge and get the response through the layers. This is how the layout data is the JSON response. From there, model binding will be happening, and then the response sent back to the user. Okay. These are all the starter kit and the SDK which is readily available for us to getting started with this. Okay. Um, so if you have any suggestions or any bug report, we can able to log it here, because as of now, this is like a preview phase. Like still few features is not able to work, like embedded personalization, dictionaries. Like we need to fetch a dictionary, right? In Next.js, we can have a dictionary fetcher, something like that, right? So here we're not having that kind of option. So it is under development. So if you have any suggestions or you can able to contribute, just get into this SDK or repository, and we can log our bug reports on anything there. Okay. And again, as I told, it's easily able to integrate. We no need to have the starter kit. If we have our own .NET Core application, we can just grab this NuGet package and we can get started with our XM Cloud integration with .NET Core application. Okay. The rendering and model binding option. So by default, like as I told, like whenever the data we are getting from the experience edge, which is called Sitecore layout response. So this response will be mapped to the particular component which is defined in the placeholder. Right? So there are multiple ways to bind this component. So one of the default or most used view type is called model bound view. Okay, so which is very straightforward. So we need to just create a CS HTML file and a class and rendering in the Sitecore. Okay, all the names should be similar. Okay, so finally I will show you how to configure this one. So once we created this one, automatically Sitecore will look for the particular component and it will map to the individual properties which we created in the Sitecore. So once that is loaded, the view we can able to populate these values as a HTML way. Yeah. View component is also one more way of rendering the model binding. So if you are coming from the .NET world, they will have aware of the view component and partial view again a default partial view. Also, so default partial view is something like if there is no component available, right? If you want to do a fallback, okay, in that case, like you can use default partial view. It's just a CS HTML file. You can design whatever the content you want, and you can use it as a fallback, or you can use it for different purpose when whatever the uh, things we need to show to the UI. Okay. All right. Um, this is how the model binding will be taking place in XM Cloud with .NET application. So as you're aware of, like the layout service response have multiple fields like route field, context field, placeholders, and the components, everything, right? So by default, as I told, inbuilt, this model binding might taken place through this rendering engine dot binding attributes. Okay, you could see I have created the small model here. Like you could see, like easy editing, ID, component name, grid parameters, field names, etc. Right? Every properties have an attributes create defined. So which is called Sitecore context property. That means in the layered service response, under the context object, if you have any properties defined, that property can be automatically mapped here. Okay, similar like that, you have components field, right? You created a accordion component. Under the accordion component, like you created title, description, something like that, right? If I have an attribute uh, define on a property for a description, automated description will be mapped to the model. Okay. Again, route field is something like we have a route attribute in the layout service, right? If you want to map any specific routes, again, this property will become into picture. Okay. This is how defaultly we can do the model binding. Um, Finally, there is once we did the model binding, right? Now we need to show this in the UI. Okay. So we have a multiple tag helper, which is SC placeholder, where we define a placeholder in Sitecore. We know like how to define a placeholder in MVC application, right? This is the way how can we define a placeholder in .NET Core application. Okay. Or SC text is basically if you want to map any single line text, multi-line text, or rich text editor, something like that, you can use SC text, and the name such as what is date. If you want to map the date field, you want to map the link field, image field, and the number. Okay. You could see the top. There's a test field, rich test field, hyperlink field. These are all the class which used to do the model binding in the poker object. If you see the before example here, public string, instead of string, if I targeted to text field, okay, automatically um, the text property from the accordion will be mapped here. Okay, so that's about the model binding option. Let's see once we have completed all the mappings and everything, and we are ready with the UI. Now we want to make sure our application, running application, which we can use it in Sexum Cloud as a page editing mode. Okay, so by default, when you run this application in a local, it will be like localhost 5001 or something. Okay, so which we not able to configure in Sitecore for doing page editing. So for that, we need to use tunneling. So there is a two-way we can create tunneling. Okay, one is ngRox, which is freely available for us, and second is a Visual Studio. Okay, if you have like a professional enterprise edition, we can able to create the tunneling. With the help of tunneling, it will be publicly available, so anyone can access this URL, and this will communicate with your local host. Okay. Let me let's see. I will show this thing in a demo. Uh, the other thing is content resolver. So who are working with currently with the XM Cloud or JSS application already aware of the content resolver. Like if you want to customize the layout service response, okay, for the component. So we can customize the layout service for a particular component using the .NET way of coding, and whatever the properties we are defining here, that will be coming as your layout service response for the particular component. Okay. Once we did this one, we can deploy the code to the GitHub repository. From there, automatically the continuous integration will taken care on this newly created content resolver on the component will be deployed. Whenever we fire the experience H query, the new layered service response will be coming for us. This is the basic deployment of. So once we have ready with our application in our local, so we need to deploy our code to Azure Web App. Okay. Right now, in order to do a deployment to Azure Web App, I have created app settings development.config file. Again, we can create our production.config file, uat.config file, depends upon our credentials. Okay. So right now I have created this development.config, and in Azure Web App, we will be creating an environmental variable ASP.NET Core underscore environment. I will be setting it as development, and only the development settings from the app settings.development.config file will be taken. Okay, and finally we deploying it to Azure. So this is a screenshot which shows like how we are deploying it to Azure. Okay. Let's see them in action. Okay. So let's see from the beginning how we gonna create a website and projects and everything. Um, for me, I have already created the project. Uh, I have a restriction that I can't create more project. So, but let me show the settings. Okay, for the project, let me show the project option. So this is the project name. We can create whatever the project name we can have, and I'm targeting to GitHub repository. Okay. This is my GitHub account, and you can have your GitHub project. So this project I have cloned from the XM clone starter kit. Okay, which I have shown in the initial URL. Once that is done, we can click save, and then it will ask us to do a environment creation, the site name, site as well. Okay, so this is the environment we have created. Let me go to this environment, and I will show the settings as well. So I have created a new environment called dev, and I'm linking it to the main branch. Okay. And finally, I'm setting that whenever there is a continuous integration, like code deployment happen to the GitHub repository, automatically the code deploy the deployment should be triggered in XM Cloud. Okay. That is what I'm setting it as yes. Okay. Once it is done, we need to create a site. Okay. The, I have created 2 sites already, but we can create a number of sites we want. Okay. Let me to this place. Go with this one. The collection name is demo. So that's it. That's fine. Okay. Let it create. But we have already created basic site and site B. Let me go to basic site. Better I can go to content editor. Okay. So this is our basic site. You could see the structure has been created, which has a home, and it has many components. Okay. We're not going to consider it as shared layer. Let's think of the final layer, but it's same, right? Um, you could see like I have created 2 new components, card and card GraphQL, which are the 2 new components I have created. Okay. So let me go to the code as well. Once we clone the repository, the starter kit, this is our solution. By default, let me go to the solution. Okay, folder view. So this is our folder view. By default, we having a authoring application, and we have a headless application, head apps. Okay. So this is our front end application. This is the platform application. So basically, if we want to do any content resolver or any settings which we need to update or something like that, we'll be doing it in this project. If we want to have new components created or any UI thing, we're gonna use this application. Okay. So first our target is the front end application. So let me go to the front end application. Okay. I hope on the front end application. So this is the basic default structure. Okay. The first entry point of this application is default control. Okay. Before that, let me go to program.cs. So first and foremost is everyone aware of how .NET Core was. It works based on middleware approach, services and middleware approach, right? So right now they're creating like a lot of dependency injections using services, and we are targeted with a multi-site routing, add MVC, and you see like how we are actually um, getting the layout service using a GraphQL client. Like we are passing default site name, edge context ID. Okay. Um, we also using the middleware here, use multi-site, use routing, and the finally is like use Sitecore request localization. And if this is our default um, routes, okay. This is important. If we removing any, I think like people who already took the code 1 month back will not able to see this one because they have did some modification. They actually introduced add multi-site middleware into the code so that to see the multi-site in action. But there is some problem in it's not working at the moment. We have raised some ticket for it, but they actually actively looking into that. But there is a workaround that we can able to see the multi-site easily. Okay, I will show that as well. Now we go to default controller. As I told, whenever we load the domain name, this is the first place it's gonna hit. Okay, once that is hit, it gonna call the rendering get rendering control. Basically, like it will fire the GraphQL query against Edge and will get the response. Once that is get the response, it will try to map the components. Okay, first and foremost is, as I told, the app settings. And in the app settings, we have Edge context ID, default site name, and secrets. Okay. Without this information, you will not able to communicate with the XM cloud. So in Next.js, we have the domain name, API endpoint, and you have the API key as well, right, to communicate with the XM cloud, right? Here we are using Edge context ID and the site name. This two is more than enough to load the website. But if you want the editing experience in Sitecore pages, you want to use editing secret. Okay. Um, let me show where we can grab this information from. I'm gonna regenerate that one after this demo. So if you go to your environment, and you can easily able to see the context. This is Edge context ID. Sorry, this is a preview context. This is Edge context. Okay, you have other information as well. Like you can go to your Edge environment and you can query your code, and let's see if your things working or not. Okay, that's one more place we can able to see this. Yeah. So this is a preview. If I click, this is the live, the Edge one. Okay, okay. And you can, if you have multiple site, you can able to navigate with individual thing, and you can copy and paste it into the app settings. This is directly master. This is from Experience Edge. So right now we are using 80J. So this is 80J, and you could see the editing secret is not there in live environment. But what I did, I just copied from here because I want an editing experience in Sitecore page. So I actually use this one. And site name is not mandatory, but somehow without site name we can't able to see the uh, website loaded in our local, or else even we deployed the project into Azure or somewhere where we actually having the real domain name. Okay, so ultimately the logic should be like if we have any domain name, proper domain name, automatically site resolving should be happening based on the domain name. This is something you guys already verified in Next.js app, right? There is a site resolver will be there. If based on a domain name, it will identify the site and it will load the website, right? That is the basic feature of multi-site. Initially, I told you there is some problem with the multi-site. This is one thing. Without the site name, we unable to load the proper website. Okay, so that's something we need to consider. Okay, at the time of configuring multi-site. Okay. So that's it. Our configuration is done. Let me run the application. Yeah. So the website is already communicating with Sitecore. So these are all the components. It's a one component. This is my custom component, content resolver component, which I have created. This is again one more component. This is one more card GQL component. Initially, I showed two components, right? These are all the two components. This is rolling right now, and other components as well, footer as well. Okay. So let me go to the code again. Default. You could see here all the response, whatever the service giving to us is coming here. See, this is site context route. Under the route we have placeholder. The placeholder. This is my placeholder headless main, and we have see data sources coming up. Rich text component. There's one more component called container. It is a placeholder component. And in that we have 5 components. So you see this dynamic placeholder. Under the dynamic placeholder, we have multiple component as well. This is card component. Oh, this is card GQL and its own parameter. You could see this is again a custom parameter. I can show that one as well. So once this is done, it automatically loads to the web. That's fine. So one important thing is that first thing is we need to create the model. Let me go to the rich text component. We have created the model out of the box. Some of the components they already given to us. Okay, which is rich text component. And they clearly mentioning like this is the component field. Map this component, the field text field. Okay. So first they created the model, and then they actually creating the relevant rich text view. Every view should be under component Sitecore component. Okay, this is the path. If you put outside that one, it will not want to work. So all the components should be under Sitecore component. So I'm just targeting to this one model, and I'm just looping it through the text field. And this is SC text. It's a tag helper is used. Okay, and you could see there's a number of tag helpers showing in the intelligence. Okay. So that's the two important thing we need to do. But site component will not get loaded unless we will register it. Okay, the registration is something we will do it under here. Okay, so but you could see there is a rich text is already defined here. Initially we talked about view types. Okay, add model bound view, view components, partial views, and default partial view. So this is the model bound view. What we are trying to say, load this particular model from the component rich text. So it will map the rich text component and will grab all the fields from the layout service and map it to this rich text model. And finally, that model will be used here and load it in the front end. Okay. So the name of the component and the model, whatever you're defining, it should be same. Let me go to the program.cs. There's one. Yeah, you see here. This is the one which we are actually configured from here. We go to here. Let's go to the same place. Go to the same place here. But you could see there is a add partial view. If there is no component, like I'm looking for a component called card. If I don't have a card view.html, new CSHTML in our repository, this will load automatically component not found view. Okay. This also be available under here. Yeah. So that's basically like how we actually mapping this one. Let's see how to create a custom component with content resolver. Right. We are talking about content resolver. Yeah. So if you go here, site models, layout service, rendering content resolvers, I have created a folder called basic site. These are all out of the box content resolver, which will be used. But we are trying to do customizing our own content resolver. So I have created the new content resolver here. So who are already work with XM Cloud, they might have aware of this one. Uh, who are also JSS app. Yeah. And this is the library from where I have written the code. Okay. This is coming from XM Cloud ASP.NET Core Starter. So as I initially told, there's two applications available. One is for platform, one is for front-end application. So in order to do that, we need to go to this application. Okay. I already have one more application created for that, which is this one. Yeah. So I have created the content resolver, which is very, very straightforward. So we need to inherit from rendering content resolver. We can also do it from interface. I'm directly doing it from the concrete class. Okay. This is a method we need to override. I'm just checking whether my data source is empty or not. I'm just throwing some response back to the component. Okay. In this case, if there's a data source available, I'm grabbing title and description from the data source. If not, I'm just giving some random uh, data to the component. Very simple. No custom thing. But you can create whatever the logic you want. If you want to process the data from your third party APIs or anything, you can do that and finally create as an object or list and provide the response back to the component. Okay. Once that is done, we just gonna have it the library here. Okay. And once the library is created, we need to go to the rendering. Which rendering you gonna target? Maybe our rendering is card. Okay, we have a card here. So I'm gonna, you could see this is a card name. Should exactly match the component name in our front end app. Here I'm just selecting my content resolver here. Okay, but the example doesn't aware of this new code which we just created. So we need to deploy this code. Okay. So what have I did is when I check in this code to Azure DevOps, automatically a continuous integration will be triggered. Only this author continuous integration will be triggered, and this our XM cloud will be redeployed. Okay, so in that case, I could show you the deployments here. You could see like whenever I do the check-in, this is creating a new build and deployment options. We can able to go and build and deploy manually as well. So once I do that, the new code now in available in the XM cloud. So the layout service will be created based on this new code which we have created. Okay. So right now, if I go to playground, this is again the home page. It's a home page. It's a home page ID only. Okay. If I go here, right, so you see here, you see the difference. I have had added the data source for this component. What I mean is, I go to the home page, presentation, details, final data as I told. Take it here. So I'm having the promo card component, right? Exactly the same thing should be there. Yeah. It has a field like TT hello promo, and you see the URL and tags, which is hard coded in the code itself. Okay. The two fields which is taking from the data source, and the other two fields I'm taking it from the code itself. We can do whatever we want, but for simple example, I just provided this sample. Yeah. This component again, see here. TTT. This is the exact response is coming there. Okay. Say for an example, if I want to map this name as well, I need to create one more field here. I need to change it as well, like component name. Here in this case, it should be name, and I need to deploy this code. Without deploying this code, the sorry, the layout service will not have that value. Okay. That's with the card component. Let me show how I created the card component in the code. We go to the front end app. First, I am creating the card model, but you could see there is one thing here. Okay, I'm using string. Okay, but if we go to rich text component, they are using rich text field, promo component. They are using text field, image field, hyperlink field. There is a difference. Okay, so if you're directly mapping the template fields, then there is no customization like content resolver or GraphQL query. You can directly use these fields like rich text field or something, because their value will be, let me show here, like this one. They have a value property. Under that, then they will have a proper. Let me show a different one. Okay, this one is in this component. They have a text field. Another text field. When the layout service provided the output, the response format will be like this, right? So text, under that there will be a value. So in order to map this one, if I use text field or rich text field, automatically this field will be mapped. But in our scenario, see the response for us, it doesn't have a value property, right? So in that case, test field, rich text field will not gonna work for us. So we need to use string field only. String field or integer field, whatever the field based on our mapping, we need to use it. So if you try to use a text field or something, this field will always be null. Okay, so make sure about that. And you could see I actually use Sitecore component field only. Still, it's a field from the layout service, right? So we have to use this one. If you're not going to use it, it's not going to map. Okay, so it has to be there. Okay, so that is our first component. I have created the component, the model. Then I have created the view here, the Sitecore component. This is code, right? Yeah, this is a model. I'm just mapping through the data here. Okay. And one important problem is we can't do experience editor for this one because I'm not using a tag helper here. But if you want to use tag helper, we can do the experience editing support. Yeah. Um, Once we did this one, go back to registration. Okay, this is a place where we can go ahead and register. You could see I have registered here. So this is our model. This is our component name from layout service. This is our component in our application. Okay. So model, component name, component in our application. It's a view.cshtml, right? Yeah. This one. Okay. Now let's look at how to have a embedded GraphQL query component. Yeah. So this is our embedded GraphQL component. So it doesn't have any, what is it? Second. Content resolver selected here. Okay. But I have created my GraphQL query. This is nothing like it. It will look from the context item, and from there it will look for the child item's name. Okay, that's a basic query. So I have created this component, which is called GQL. Okay, and I have assigned this to the home page. Just again in the final layout. Yeah, you don't need to provide. I'm just targeting myself, but again, you can, if you have any data source, we can provide the data. Yeah. So once that is done, I can just publish it, and I can see the URL. So this is the response, and this is a card GQL component. Because I used self colon, it's giving me the data, all the data source. But again, I'm looking only the children. So now you could see this is our result. So, but there is a problem with the mapping. Okay, because the current structure is different from this structure. So if you go to the previous component, like you would see fields, and you can have directly fields under it, right? The normal components like fields and value component, but this having a nested of classes or something, right? This is a class, and there is one more object, an array, right? So we want to map this properly. Okay. So let me go to the front end application. Let's go to the code GraphQL model. Okay. All right. So we almost have the base model, which will be the default out of the box they provided. Like these are the properties: editing, component name, ID, grid parameters, field names, and all those things. Okay. We just inheriting that one, and you could see this is very straightforward. Like I'm just creating multiple class the nested way. What is this? I could say like data, item, children, and the results list. Exactly, I'm trying to map this structure. Once I am mapping the structure, I'm just gonna use it in my application. Okay. So I created the model right now. Let me go and create the view. So this is my view. I'm targeting card GQL model. I'm just looping the names. Okay. And finally, I need to define this thing component into service collection extension. This is the place I'm just mapped this component. Again, model, card name, our view file, component name. Yeah. So let's me show the response of this one. I think I stopped running. Let me run this one. give them a second. Okay, you could see this URL. This is basically a tunneling URL. I can show you like how to create the tunnels using ngrok on Visual Studio. It's taking time. Debugger created, and I created debugger. Yeah. So this is my card GQL response. You could see how it is mapped here. This is a component, and you could see the mapping here. About data. The structure is exactly we see it in the GraphQL. So, here. So we are not doing anything. Everything will be automated. We're just creating the model with the proper structure, creating the view file, and registering it. A relevant component will be created in Sitecore as a JSON rendering, and that's it. Like our application will load the components. If I hit F5, I need to basically stop this tunneling. It's expired. Let me go with normal. Yeah. So you can see it's a core graphical component. The front end is application loaded. This one. This is the previous core content resolver component. Yeah. Now let's talk about creating the tunneling. Okay. Why we need to create tunnel? Okay. So let me go to Sitecore. In XML, if you are using a Docker or Next.js application, when you deploy your repository to XML, automatically the following things will be created for you. Let me show what else. What are that? By default, this rendering goes thing, right? Like server rendering, engine, and everything will be automatically created for you when using Docker. Okay. Or else you will manually deploying it to XML. But in .NET Core way, this will not be get created. So we need to create it manually. Without that, we can't able to see the content in Sitecore pages. One important thing. Okay, if you are cloning like dot not existing, so let's talk about this one. If you're already having a Next.js application, okay, the XM cloud application, you just went to the deploy app and grabbed the Edge ID, editing secret, and site name, and you're trying to configure these three values in our .NET Core app settings, and your expectation is want to see the application in action, right? It's not going to work. So even though we are getting the credentials from the XM cloud, but it's not going to work because the code which deployed to the XM cloud from the Next.js app is different. Okay, so if you want to communicate with .NET application, we need to grab the starter kit and deploy to the XM cloud. And on that application's sites only, we need to grab the edge context ID, site name, and editing secret. So that is something we need to consider, because initially I tried to not deploy the .NET application. I'm just trying to use the existing Next.js XM Cloud Sitecore content tree and try to load the application. It's not worked. So, so by default, this will be empty. Let's see. Let me refresh this page. Now I'm trying to load the content in XM Cloud pages. By default, this this will not get loaded, okay, unless we have this configured, okay, this URL to be publicly accessible. But in your local, our application using localhost, right? So we are not able to use it. So that is the reason we need to create tunneling. So without that, without these URLs, you will not able to come, you will load the pages. Two things: either we need to create a tunnel, or we need to deploy this application to some Azure or any portal. There, use that your domain name, so that this application will load for you. So right now you could see this is the domain name from Azure, okay? Because I have deployed this code to the Azure web app. So that is the reason now this application is working. So let me show that quickly. So this is the website, the same website I have deployed to Azure. Okay, this is publicly accessible now. Yeah. So I have used this one as my server rendering, server side rendering, and based on that, now my Sitecore pages is loading. Okay. Now I don't want to deploy the code. I am in the development phase. I want to check the Sitecore pages. That case, tunneling comes into play. So by default, if you have Visual Studio 2022, okay, we can be able to create this one. Here, this option here, create tunnel. Just give you some good name. And if you have any proper subscription with Microsoft Azure, then you can able to create this one. Like you have a GitHub account, Microsoft login. Okay, like any kind of a login, you can able to create it. Let me create one test tunnel. We can make it as temporary persistent. Like persistent means it will not get deleted. If temporary means once the Visual Studio session is closed, this URL also get closed. Okay, we can't access the URL again. Okay, and I name such as private or public, public, right? Yeah. Let me make it as public and persistent and public. So my new tunnel is created. If you could go here and it's in this tunnel, let me hit this one now. Yeah, just click continue. Yeah. The site gets loaded in the new tunnel. Let me copy this tunnel now. Let me place the same thing here to see my Sitecore pages works. Okay. I have created the settings. Let me go and refresh the page. Yeah, site works now. All right. So now this site is not communicating with the deployed web app. This is actually communicating with my local. For that example, let me have a breakpoint. Okay. Let me refresh this page. See, the breakpoint hits because it is communicating with my local host. Once this is completed, my application will load. Okay. So that's how we can able to communicate with our local application using XM Cloud pages. Okay. There's other options like this, which is not working right at the moment. Who are using Next.js application, they can play here, right, localhost, but which is not working right now. All right. Now one more thing is ng-log. That's one way to create this one. Google. we don't have Visual Studio, that's let's go ahead and create this one. This is, yeah, here it is. Yeah, I'm using Windows machine, so I'm just using this one. Yeah, 3 steps. Okay, first we need to install ng-rug using Choco. Once you try to install your node, this Choco will also come as your optional thing where you need to select it, but else you can manually download it. But there's other option also where we can download the exe or something, but this is the easiest way. Okay. We need to connect, we need to sign up. Once we sign up, they will give us the token. Okay, the token we just need to use, and then finally type your local domain name here. Okay, like if you want your application to be running in HTTP or HTTPS, you just need to use your binding here, and this is your actual URL, local URL. In that case, my URL will be 5001, right? So I need to use that one. Let me stop my tunnel. Yeah, 5001. So I just need to use 5001 here. Let me show the screenshot which I have created. Yeah. So once I did this one, you could see here the heading here, ng-rug http https 5001. It is created a new tunnel for me. My tunnel URL is like https is this one. Okay, this is my URL. So I can even just use this one and browse this one. Okay, and configure the same thing in my XM Cloud application. Yeah. All right. Now we'll look into deployment. Yeah. So now we actually created the website, created the component. Okay. Now only thing is we need to deploy our application. Okay. Right now, if you could see my Sitecore, that's 2 websites. I think there are 3 websites. Right? 1, 2, 3. Okay. So let's target 2 websites here. So I have created the publish profile here. Just click publish. I already created a publish profile here. Okay. But for now, I can create one more profile. Let me stop this one. I'm going with Azure Web App. Yeah, I'm already having this one, but I'm gonna create a new one. By the way, I'm using my free account, but if you having, you can create a free account in Azure portal as well. They will give you a $50 credit, so we can use it for our testing purpose. Okay. So this is our new app. Let me go with side B. Okay. And I think you're aware of this one, resource group and hosting plan. You can have multiple hosting plan, but I'm using Canada. So this will take some time. Okay. While that is loading, let me go to portal.azure. As I told, I have $50 credit. This is my deployed app, which I already done. So you could go ahead and see my code here. The thing is slow. This is done. You can see that. So this is my deployed code. And you could say all my libraries and everything there here. All right. Now, if you go to development, and you could see the same thing here. Okay. So this is basic site. I'm deploying the second site B. Let me do the next. Finish. Just publish. So what that will do, it will create a resource group in Azure and create the Azure Web App. Okay. At the moment we have one. See, we have anything else. Yeah, site B is there. It's still under progress. Once that is done, we can able to see the site. But initially I told you like by default in Next.js, you no need to provide the site name. By default, all the sites configured in Sitecore will be dynamically loaded based on your domain name. Okay, which is currently not working. So we need to specify the site name. Like if you have to load site A, site B, site C, we need to have the configuration updated with three separate websites. Then when we can able to target the particular website. Yeah. Still loading. Site B is loaded, but you could see the same content, which is from site A, right? Because I didn't modify the app settings, which I need to modify now. Go and see what is the site name here. Site B, settings, site grouping. What is my site name? My site name is site B. Okay. Which one I triggered? Let's go to development. I just need to change site B. Okay. By default is autosave. I need to create an environment variable as well. Which I need to go to here and do the environment variable. But for the simplicity, I'm just going to copy this one. Just going to place it here. By default, app settings will be targeted. Okay. So if I want to have a specifically target app settings development.config JSON file, I need to create an environment variable, which is ASP.NET Core underscore environment. Okay. Value should be development. Okay. So which initially we discussed. I'm just going in a workaround, just directly create it in the app settings. So by default, it should load the site by site. So we're just going to restart our server, the app from portal, Azure. Okay. It. Refresh it. Still load. Should give me 500 error, 503. Restarted, right? It should not be so fast. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Let's give some second. Yep, site loaded, and you could see it's a different site. It doesn't have anything here, right? Yep, that's it. Um, you open the slide. We covered all those things. Yep, that's it. I have completed whatever I'm planning to give. If you have any doubt, let me know, please. Yeah, I hope there is no question. Kushbu, can you? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, hi Nanshan. Abhishek this side.
Yes, please tell me.
Yeah, actually, I joined a bit late. I don't have the proper context of this one. So I want kind of if you have some kind of URL or like you are already have prepared the data, can you share with me so I can like do the things at my own as well?
You need the project
Yes.
code. The code is already there. Let me show the code.
Okay.
There is there's a GitHub code directly coming from Sitecore.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so let me show this one. So this is a repository, and it has all the
Okay.
steps. Okay,
And
so
whatever the changes you have done, that you have pushed it.
no, that code is not switched. I can push that.
Okay.
I
Actually,
can
I'm asking
maybe.
for the local one, but because I have this one.
Uh,
I'm asking for the local one, which you have like recently done the changes. That's one.
okay, okay. I can add a GitHub repository.
Okay,
I can
sure. So where I
to
can get
can I
it,
share it to
like
Kushbu?
use.
To whom
Sorry.
I need to whom I need to share?
Yeah. If you can share with me on over the WhatsApp, I think you are in the group.
This group, right?
Which yeah, you can push your changes in this one as well. I will pull it.
No, no, this one we can't push. No, this is the Sitecore repository.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So where I can get that? Oh.
No, I can give a zip file. Or
Okay.
else
Fine.
I'll have my own. I have GitHub repository, my own GitHub repository. I'll
Okay.
share the
So
link
you
to
can
you.
just share me the URL. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That will
Just
be
give your
fine.
email address to me.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you.
Can you?
Stop sharing. Okay. You ping the. All right. We can wind up the call. Um, Thanks for attending this session. Uh, that should be
Yeah,
all for.
sure. Thanks,
Okay.
Nelson. Can I
Share
put
your email.
that my mail ID in this chat box or like where I can share it with you?
Yeah, you can put it here, so I can take it from here.
Okay, sure. I'm putting.
Bye bye.
Bye.